everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. Item 1 on the agenda is the first Selectmen's remarks, and I will be brief. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting this evening. I hope you all had a festive, if perhaps a little wet, 4th of July. It's such a pleasure to open the meeting tonight and share with you just how lovely the new Woodbridge Center is. That space is being completely transformed into a modern, inviting community resource. If you missed the grand opening in late June, I hope you will take a few minutes to go over and see for yourselves. We're so very grateful for all the work that has gone into transforming the old senior center into a new, welcoming center for our residents 55 and older. As I mentioned last month, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the withdrawal of the last U.S. troops from Vietnam. Woodbridge will be holding an event to honor our residents who served in the military during the Vietnam era. The ceremony is scheduled for July 17, 2023 at 5 p.m. at the new Woodbridge Center. This event is co-hosted by Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysowitz and the town of Woodbridge. Woodbridge residents who are Vietnam veterans, including Dr. Lober, have received invitations. Did you get your invitation?
I'll be out of town, unfortunately.
Oh.
My kids are coming up.
I understand.
But thank you.
Welcome. But anyone in TV land should RSVP to Mrs. Shaw. As you know, we're moving ahead with the request for proposals, also known as an RFP, regarding the former Country Club of Woodbridge. The purpose of the RFP is to receive competitive proposals from qualified consultants to create a master plan for use, not for developers. There was some confusion about that. Following the return deadline in August, I'll be able to bring further information to the board, hopefully at the September meeting. Once chosen by the board, a new consultant will take input from all stakeholders, including residents and businesses. This effort will hopefully build a consensus while providing positive proposals for the town. The board was recently asked about considering charging for the electricity used by folks at the EV chargers. Both the chargers at the Public Works Garage and the library have been upgraded. Software and related equipment to allow the chargers to accept credit card payments is on order for both chargers. We have spoken with Brian West at CCM to find out what other towns charge, and they are actually in the process of gathering data such as how much to charge per hour, maximum charging time per vehicle, etc. Our vendor will then program each charger to the specifications we choose. Once we gather this data, I will keep you all informed on this. I also have a brief update on matters that will be heard by our ordinance committee. In addition to Selectman Lober's request regarding a possible update for our elderly tax stabilization ordinance, the committee will also receive information and recommendations regarding the operation of WOGAT, which is currently overseen by the Town Government Access Television Commission, also known as GATVOC. You may recall that at a town hall staffing change has taken effect and our current operations are in flux. In our strategic plan under Strategy 3, Tactics A and D, we have noted the importance that we place on the continuation and enhancement of video recordings of meetings to help achieve the transparency necessary for residents of Woodbridge to understand how their local government works on their behalf. I want to assure everyone that our intention is to strengthen this transparency, and the Ordinance Committee will therefore look at any updates that may be beneficial in this regard and send them back to the Board of Selectmen with any recommendations for GATVOC Commission. The Ordinance Committee will be meeting in August, and I believe the date was just settled about an hour ago, August 9th. 5 years ago, the town received a memorial gift of $110,000 from the charitable organization One Big Dog Animal Respite Fund, named in memory of longtime animal lover and supporter Bridget Albert. This gift originated from the estate of Janice Wright and was donated with the hope that the One Big Dog Respite Fund would help as many dogs and cats as possible. One Big Dog Respite Fund is coordinated by Chief Animal Officer Karen Lombardi and Woodbridge resident Laura Torrance. The $110,000 and funds from a steep grant facilitated a much-needed renovation of the Woodbridge Regional Animal Control Facility, which is located at 135 Bradley Road. It is an honor and a pleasure to work with Karen, who facilitated the donation to the town and helped coordinate the renovation. In 2014, the then Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to approve the naming of the new Public Works garage in memory of former First Selectman Edward Mom Sheehy. With this in mind, I'm proposing we name the facility the Karen Lombardi Animal Shelter. The One Big Dog Respite Fund will be creating and dedicating a memorial garden at the shelter this fall, with benches for families to meet prospective pets prior to adoption, as well as a spade for quiet contemplation. Once the board hopefully approves this evening, we will have a ribbon-cutting ceremony and formally name the building at that time. And finally, for the first time in the history of Woodbridge, our municipal election will be held on Tuesday, November 7th. I hope everyone will remember that in Woodbridge, we always try to be kind to each other. And this board has accomplished so much, and I hope we will continue to work together through the end of the calendar year. And that, we will move on to item 2, which is library staffing update. Eric Worthman is here, our library director. Welcome, Eric. Thank you for providing this. There were a couple items that came up at the annual town meeting, I believe, and some questions, and so we thought bring it to the board so everybody can hear it and see it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So yes, I will do my best to sort of describe our current staffing levels and our staffing situation and the reasons behind them. The library is currently open 54 hours a week, and for the first time ever this year, this includes Saturday during the summer, which as far as I know has never been the case before, so we're happy to be open Saturdays year-round. In order to staff the library, we have 7 full-time employees and 11 part-time employees, and they work for 475 hours per week total, which is about 8.8 employees per hour open on average. Obviously, this changes every week, and is generally probably a little bit less than that because usually somebody is out or somebody has resigned or something. But it's about 8.8 employees per hour per week, and I know that was one of the questions asked at the preliminary budget hearing. And I did want to mention that that number, 475 hours per week, is actually notably lower than it was 5 years ago when it was 510 hours per week. So that's a reduction of 35 hours or 13% in about 5 years. So I think it's important to note that. It's not very surprising because there is, as you guys are aware, always budgetary pressure on us to keep any increases limited and to reduce costs in any way we can. We always try to do that. We always try to do more with less, as they say. But I do think our current staffing level is necessary to maintain the excellent services that we have. I think people have come to expect a great library in Woodbridge, and I do think we provide that. We have an amazing staff and amazing resources, but that does cost some money. And I did want to just sort of describe a little bit what we do in those 475 hours. So I did run some statistics in order to illustrate that. And all these statistics are for fiscal year 23, which is the fiscal year that just ended a little less than 2 weeks ago. So in fiscal year 23, we had more than 60,000 visitors to the library. We circulated more than 130,000 physical items, and there's probably an additional, I would say, 30 to 40,000 digital items that I was not able to get the numbers for. We added almost 4,000 physical items to the collection. Our reference department answered more than 7,200 questions, and we had more than 250 programs for children and more than 150 programs for adults. And again, and I think these numbers are still rising a little bit. They were obviously basically down to 0 3 years ago, so they're still kind of going back up from 0 to something. So I think in 2019 they might have been slightly higher than this, so we hopefully can get back to that level. And I think these numbers illustrate kind of what we do. A lot of these numbers, in particular, if you look at the 4,000 physical items added, or actually 3,958. Each of those items is selected by a library staff member and is purchased by them, and then each of those items has to be added to the collection. They have to be cataloged, they have to be processed, and so all of that obviously takes a lot of staff time, especially when you're talking about 4,000 books or DVDs or whatever it is. And so to go back to the 8.8 employees per hour, I think generally the way we think of things at the library is 5 employees is kind of our base, our core level, which is kind of the employees we need to staff our service desks and help the public. We have 3 service desks on 2 floors, so 5 employees would usually be 2 employees on the circulation desk, 1 employee on the reference desk, and 2 employees at the children's desk. And that is usually our total staffing on evenings and weekends. So if you go there right now, because it's after 5, there's probably only 5 people there. If you go on a Saturday, there's probably usually 5 people there. But during the week, obviously there's quite a bit more people there because there's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen. That's not just that sort of frontline helping of the patrons, even though that is probably the most important thing you do. Obviously, a lot of that, to go back to the 4,000 items added, obviously we have an entire technical services department of 1 full-time and 2 part-time employees whose entire job is to get those books and DVDs and everything onto the shelf, and that takes a lot of hours to get catalog, process them, put stickers on them all, put barcodes on them, all that stuff. And obviously there's me. I'm sometimes at the service desks, on the service desk, but not all the time, not often, and so I obviously have a lot of other stuff to do, so that adds to the staffing levels when I'm doing budgeting or personnel management or reports or grants or things like that I have to do. That is not sort of factored into that 5 employees, so that increases the number of employees. And then everyone else who does work on those service desks also has tons of other things to do. Everybody at the library probably does like 4 or 5 different jobs at least, so they have to do collection development, they have to do programming, they have to do technology help, they work on our social media accounts and on marketing and public resources efforts. They work on our website, which includes all of our online resources that have to be maintained. We do collection management. It actually takes a lot of work to keep our collection in a state where people can find books and want to browse the books. That includes obviously shelving the books, shifting the books, weeding. All this stuff takes a lot of time just so you can actually go in and find a book where it's supposed to be. We do displays and art shows, and we have to obviously do a lot of reports and statistics that we have to submit to the state. And obviously we're working a lot with other departments in town and other community organizations, so there's tons of stuff going on at all time, and that does take staff, and I think, as I said, I think that we do a great job with the staffing level we have, but I do think what we have is necessary to keep this going and to keep it going at the level that people have come to expect. And that's it. Any questions?
Well, thank you. Very informative. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
Okay, obviously, I invite anyone to reach out to me personally with any questions about this, or obviously to you, whoever they want. But I think, none of these things are secret. In fact, most of those statistics and stuff are available on the Connecticut State Library's website. All of the statistics for any Connecticut Public Library are on the Connecticut State Library's website. There's a huge spreadsheet with all these statistics on there, so anybody is welcome to look at them.
Good.
So, yeah, anyway. So.
All right, thank you for getting those answered. Okay, take care, Eric. Okay, item 3 on the agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education. We'll first hear from Superintendent Tenza. Come on up, Vonda. Hello. Welcome. School is out, but you're as busy as ever, I guess.
School is out. We're very busy. If you never really thought about it,
Sorry.
that's okay. When school is out, the phone still rings, new parents leaving.
Perfect timing, the
still
phone
have
ringing.
Great programs running, extended school year for special education students, summer enrichment programs, park and rec, they have their camp there in the mornings. It's very busy. I see, custodians cleaning and fixing, and administrators are planning and hiring. It's very busy. We're ordering. The business office is very busy, still trying to close out, last year. So it's just busy. My report's going to be really, really short tonight because it's actually connecting into our ad hoc enrollment instructional needs and planning presentation. The one thing I did just want to do, other than acknowledge that committee, is to let the Board of Selectmen know. I think it's interesting, and helpful for you to know that the Board of Education did support the decision at the end of our year to apply $150,000 of our excess funds that we had available towards capital improvements of the school, so that we would pay for the architect fees for the Silver Petroselli work, as well as to support upgrades to our PA announcement system improvements, which falls under a need for safety. These have, both been long needed, and we're really fortunate this year. We realized that capital improvements, usually fund from the town, but we were, in partnership, wanted to recognize that we were able, this was a very unique year. We happened to have a good deal of salary savings from a large turnover last year of teacher exits, along with the para vacancies due to the nationwide shortage of para educators. We had fundings that we were able to save and apply towards these pieces. So we're excited to share that. And I just want to recognize that our ad hoc enrollment instructional needs and planning committee has prepared a brief presentation that summarizes our work from the past several months. This presentation replicates one that was shared at the Board of Education meeting in June, and we're excited to share it with you this evening, taking it on a road trip. I'd like to publicly thank the members of the committee and specifically recognize the efforts of Dr. Maria Madonic in a thoughtful and diligent prepared presentation that we will share. Members of our committee included Lynn Piazzik, Board of Education Chair, Dr. Maria Madonic, Vice Chair, Jeff Hughes and Brooke Hopkins, members of the Board of Education, Annalisa Sherman, Building Principal, Donna Coonan, Director of Business Service and Operations, Joe Crisco, Board of Selectmen, Susan Jacobs, Board of Finance, Katie McCullum, Teacher, Ali Grabowski, Teacher, Vito Espararo, Director of Facilities, and Patty McKeon was our community member. So that was our community
Wonderful.
member rep. That's our committee, and I'm actually going to just segue into our presentation.
Thank you.
I knew it's being projected for people at home. Would you like it projected here, or do you have it in your packets?
We have the packets. What would be easiest for you? Does everyone have your packets? So it's all good? Okay. That'll save my neck.
Fair enough.
I usually get up and go in the back of the room. It's just too hard.
Fair enough. Well, thank you everyone for having us here tonight. Collectively, the Woodbridge Board of Education recognized several challenges facing the district and the need to gather information to make some informed recommendations to continue to provide the excellence in education that we do here in Woodbridge to our students. We recognize that there were some enrollment projections that we needed to address. We have curriculum, programmatic, and instructional needs that we needed to address, and staffing configurations that pose challenges to the current size and configuration of Beecher Road School. Recognizing that our configuration posed challenges and that we were also facing some increasing enrollment, the Woodbridge Board of Education formed this ad hoc committee in January of 2023 to gather information regarding the implications of the increasing enrollment and student needs on the current physical space at Beecher Road School. The charge of the committee was to review and address those physical, administrative, and instructional implications of our increasing enrollment and our student needs on the physical space at Beecher Road School. It was very important to us throughout this process that we engaged stakeholders from the community, from both our Beecher Road community, our district community, and town leadership in this process. And we thank you for having us here tonight because one of the goals of the board is to continue to communicate our progress with the members of the town. The first part of our presentation we're going to discuss is the current space concerns at Beecher Road School. And this comes from Lisa Sherman's presentation to both the committee and the Board of Education. And you can hear her full presentation from the April 2023 Board of Education meeting. It starts about 44 minutes in. And it is very informative, contains many more pictures, and you can hear her narrative throughout that as well. But we picked a couple of the pictures for this presentation here tonight because we wanted to highlight that currently at Beecher Road School, with our current enrollment, we are using larger spaces and repurposing them and sharing them simultaneously between multiple learner groups. We have as many as 3 special education classrooms occurring in the same space as a gymnasium classroom. There is a lack of classroom space for specials. And then subsequent to that, we also have some storage issues, but the storage issues are for specialized special education equipment, maintenance equipment. They're for things that we use every day and need easy access to, that are also taking up space that could be used for instructional space. If you go to your second current space concerns, our administration and superintendent went through each grade level and each program and curriculum area and took a look at space that we currently have at Beecher Road School, how we're using that space, and what ideally we would really need to teach students in an environment where a single classroom was being instructed in a single space on its own. And currently at Beecher Road School, in order for general education and special education to occur in their proper spaces, we need approximately 12 to 15 more educational spaces this year without our enrollment, without the projected enrollment and increase. That is not 12 to 15 full 20-person classroom spaces, but those are 12 to 15 educational spaces for our special education and our general education students to learn in. Some of those are full classroom spaces. The third current space slide shows you some enrollment data, and it also shows you our May 1st, 2023 report to the Board of Education of our current enrollment. And what I would like you to take away from these slides are two things. If you look to the right at our enrollment projections, the classrooms that are highlighted in yellow, so that's most of grades 1 and 2 and 1 of grade 3, are already with students that are above Board of Education classroom size guidelines. So we have continued to stretch our capacity and stretch what we've done with our classrooms. And our educators have risen to the challenge, but we want you to be aware that those classrooms are at capacity, above capacity at the moment. And the enrollment data to the left, what I would like the takeaway from that to be, when we look at historically the enrollment of Beecher Road School, the highest peak was in 1969 at 1,129 students. The next highest peak was in 1998 at 995 students. And if you look at the enrollment data, some simple math will tell you that there's some years where you only go up by 15 or 20 students. And one might say to oneself, well, that just looks like one classroom to me. And the point that we would like to make is that the enrollment data does not tell the entire story about the curriculum and instructional needs that the students at Beecher Road School and the educators need to do the job that they're doing in educating our students. There are specialized special education classes. There are programmatic needs in general education in which we need separate classrooms for students. And the third part of that is education now is taught differently than it was 10 years ago, than it was 20 years ago. So we're no longer considering the idea that we're lining up desks and making sure that we're within fire code. We're talking about being able to teach students a curriculum and to provide them with the instructional needs so that we are graduating students from Beecher Road School that are prepared for the Amity District, that are prepared for moving forward with Amity so that their portrait of the graduate is accurate as well. And we want to make sure we're keeping up with those educational and instructional needs. In June of 2021, the Board of Education hired Dr. Peter Prouda to do another set of enrollment projections for us. And we received those projections. The most notable thing about the projections is that the Woodbridge enrollment pattern differs completely from the state enrollment trajectory. The state of Connecticut is declining in elementary enrollment. Woodbridge is not. By 2031, the state of Connecticut for elementary enrollment will have decreased 5.6% from last year's enrollment. Woodbridge is projected to increase by 17%. Part of that is people are moving into this town for our wonderful education system, and that's supported by the following data.
David, do you have a...
Yeah, well, I had a question.
Sure.
Because when you talked about the current space concerns, the yellow indicates that these classrooms that have 20 students, that's above the guideline. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So the guidelines, I guess, are different for the younger than for the older.
They are.
And what are those numbers that we're using?
17 to 19 for K to 3,
Okay.
and 19 to 21
Okay.
for the upper grades.
That was all I wanted. Thank you.
I thought maybe you were blocking the sun for a minute.
I was just wanting
Waving at us.
clarification.
Is there
Thank you
sun
very
coming
much.
in? Okay. Thank
So
you.
the
Sorry,
first
guys.
data point that supports residents and families moving into this town for the education system is our percent yield on our birth rate. So when they do these enrollment projections, they look at the birth rate, they look at the percentage of childbearing women who live in Connecticut based on our who live in Woodbridge based on our census data. And then they look at the percentage of yield. How many of those students that were born join the public education system as opposed to being homeschooled or a private system? Our percentage yield is anywhere between 146 to 226% of our birth rate, meaning that those students above 100% were not born in Woodbridge. Those are families who are moving into Woodbridge for many wonderful reasons, one of which we believe is our very strong education system. Peter Prouda has stated that the increased migration of families to our town of school-age children is the major driver of our enrollment growth.
Hey.
Supporting that, also he speaks about in his report, supporting the families who are moving into town. He speaks about the rate of turnover of homes in the town and that his projections should remain accurate if we continue with about 110 existing home sales every year for Woodbridge. Currently, in the last year, so far, we are at 89 property transfers. We are at 4 new individual property, either purchases or pending purchases, and then of course we have some new construction occurring in town. His projections were based on existing homes, so those additional homes are above and beyond those projections. Also in his projections, he talks about the last highest birth rate was in 2020 and 2021. So those children will be reaching kindergarten age in 2025 and 2026. Additionally, when this report was made in June of 2021, the state had not considered either universal preschool or age requirements for enrolling in kindergarten. And as we know, the state has just passed education law that there are new age requirements. You have to be 5 by the end of September. And that, in addition to there being a birth bubble and an increase of students starting in 2025, we also predict a preschool bubble where we will have students who are eligible for preschool in 1 year who are not eligible for kindergarten in another. And so we will have a bubble preschool year in that year as well.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
About that? Did Peter Prouda put that into his projection, or did it predate him?
That
doing
predated his projections.
Okay.
So that's in addition to.
It's not this year, but next year when the age changes. So you may
Correct.
see a smaller kindergarten class for just 1 year and then a bubble the following year. Is that what you mean by bubble?
Correct, and a bubble of preschool students who were in the 4s who cannot move on to kindergarten. So there's 2 bubbles
Okay.
that will occur that following year.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like to also make note, Peter Prouda mentioned in his study that his data and these enrollment projections were consistent with the Connecticut State Data Center's 2017 population projections for our town as well. And in addition, as we were doing some research on the committee, our town came up in Madison, Connecticut's enrollment projections. About a year ago, Madison, Connecticut asked for their enrollment projections as well. They had a separate company, Malone and McBroom, do their projections, and Woodbridge is explicitly stated in their projections as the only peer district, and by peer they mean Dirt B, that saw kindergarten enrollment increase and continue to increase. So we have not just Dr. Prouda's presentation for us, but some additional data points that support that as well. Our committee stretched our thinking to think of many creative ways that we can educate the students we currently have and prepare for the future and prepare for our enrollment projections. We looked at those projections, we looked carefully at our current enrollment. Our enrollment grew over the course of the year. We had 22 students enroll over the course of last year, from October 1st when our enrollment was due to the state of Connecticut. We looked at our classroom size guidelines, the current capital projects, and the history of our capital projects in the district. We looked at the BOA Portrait of a Graduate, our Beecher Road School space usage report that our administration and superintendent put together. The challenges to that is presented by our principal, Annalisa Sherman. We also reviewed what's been happening around the state and what other towns have done to address some of these concerns. So we reviewed the temporary regional school study committee report that reviewed the formation of the new Region 20, which will start next year, which is a combination of Litchfield and Region 6. They, along with the state projections, are seeing a decrease and consolidated, but the entire process of how you would go about addressing other towns, working through redistricting, grade level districting, the committee took a careful look at everything that was involved in that process. We also looked at an equity, safety, and health report that was first given at the CADE CAPS conference last November, and that was Dr. Michael Dieter. He came to one of our meetings virtually and answered some questions about his project and what the town of Bristol had done to use existing buildings in town and turn those into educational spaces in order to meet their needs. We reviewed the process of school expansion in Guilford and the process that they went through and the challenges that they had in their school district from two avenues, from both a school district perspective and a Board of Finance perspective. And then we took a look at, of all of the stakeholders in the room, our goals and visions for adding value not just to the school district, but to the town of Woodbridge as a whole. The next slide is about education specification studies, and this is one of the presentations that we had in the ad hoc committee. An education specification study, and this verbiage comes from the National Council on School Facilities, is a link between the educational programming and school facilities. An education specification study goes in and formalizes the study that our administration and our superintendent did, goes to all of the programs, looks at the curriculum with all of the grade levels, and they put together a report of the types of educational spaces that are needed for that type of curriculum, for that programming, for our specials, for our grade levels. Then they take that information and look at it through different lenses. They'll look at it through a technology lens. They'll look at it through a lens of safety and security. They'll look at it through a lens of sustainability, of capacity, etc. And their report will direct us in what the types of spaces that we will need in the future. What we can do with that report is then look at all of the spaces that we have in town, look at the outreach we are doing to other towns, take a good look at our Beecher Road School, and possibly try to find ways to creatively create those spaces in our school district. So that study will provide detailed parameters to guide any type of design so that it's consistent with our goals of the district, it's consistent with our curriculum. So after our discussions, the Ad Hoc Enrollment, Instructional Needs, and Space Planning Committee made the following recommendations at the last Board of Education meeting. The first recommendation is we would like our superintendent to continue formal discussions with BOA districts to explore shared services, including grade level organization. The second recommendation, which should be number 2 here, recommended that the Woodbridge Board of Ed hire a consultant for a feasibility study, specifically an education specification study, to explore repurposing current spaces within Beecher Road School, the evaluation of other spaces in town or in surrounding districts that could be repurposed for educational instruction, and a comprehensive evaluation of space utilization and instructional needs and our options for addressing those needs. I think in conclusion, I want to say that one of the goals of this committee was to thoroughly address all of the issues and to stretch our thinking in the best way possible, to look at all of the possible ways in which we can address our instructional needs now and with our increased enrollment going forward. The committee is open to any and all solutions that would move us forward as a district in education. And in doing so, we wanted to make sure that the best way and the way that we could be most respectful to the town and most respectful to the taxpayers was to gather as much data as possible to support whatever decisions that we wanted to make in the future. And so the committee began collecting some of that data. The education specification study will give us some more data, and the continued conversations with BOA districts and surrounding towns will give us some more data about how we can proceed and continue to provide the excellent education that clearly people are flocking to our town to attend. So thank you very much for giving us the time and space to present that information to you tonight.
Thank you so much. I
Any
just,
questions?
yeah, I was gonna just invite the board, anyone have any questions for our wonderful gang here? Thank you, this is very informative, succinct and informative, thank you. And could we put this up on the website so folks that, or would it be on your website? What is the best way to do this? You can do it, okay,
And we'll have it on our website.
Great. Right, okay. That's way above my pay grade in terms of things going up into outer space, you know.
Me too.
Me and Lynn, yep.
I had just a quick question. So it seems like everything old is new again. There had been a building study space committee in 2000 that I was part of, a long time ago now. At the building committee for the roofing project, we did talk about turning over some old paperwork on that. That actually includes a whole bunch of sketches of where you might add to the building, and a lot of that space utilization from the year 2000, which is quite old. But I don't see it listed in your list of resources, and I'm happy to send you a copy if you'd like to look at it.
You know what, that would be great. I do think the committee also had a shared Google Drive, and I think it might be in the Google Drive, but please send it again just in case
Sure.
that's different information that we had, because we will pass that along to the consultants.
Yeah, and so you mentioned that as a recommendation to the Board of Ed. Has the Board of Ed acted on that recommendation now to hire?
Yes,
Okay.
they've accepted both recommendations.
Great. And are you in the is it an RFP process or, okay, so you're in that. Great,
Yeah.
great. So more information soon.
Yes.
Great.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep us
Appreciate
informed.
your time.
Okay, it's a little bit early for public comment, which is the next item. So I think we can move on to item 6, which is the animal shelter name. I alluded to what I wanted to do. I'd welcome comments on this if anybody has any ideas. Very rarely do we get that amount of money from a person, and it really made a difference in the shelter. And the committee that, I was on the building committee along with Leland Torrance and Stephanie Charleglio and Tony,
I was just
a staff person. Well, you're not just staff now. And Karen also sat in on that, and many months of planning, and it got done, and we would not have been able to make the shelter what it is today without that money, so we really appreciate it. So does anyone have any comments? Could I perhaps make a motion, and then we can talk about it? I'll make a motion that we rename the animal, Woodbridge, what is it called now, the Woodbridge Animal Control Shelter or something,
Yeah.
to the Karen Lombardi Animal Shelter. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe. Or Paul, I don't know who did. You can duke it out over there, okay? Anybody have any comments, questions? All in favor?
Only questions. I
Yep.
just, the Lombardi gift, this is a part of an estate or something, is that?
Apparently a woman passed away, this Janet Wright woman, and Karen had known her for a while. And she had I don't know the specifics of the estate and how it got there, but she made this donation to the One Big Dog Respite Fund for Karen to decide what to do with it, because Bridget Albert had passed away, and Karen started this charitable foundation called One Big Dog in memory of Bridget. And that money was to be used for charitable projects at the animal shelter in Woodbridge.
Okay, and so,
So she took the $110,000 from Janet Wright, put it in the One Big Dog charitable, that fund. And then Karen and the team of the folks who work, I'm not involved in the
Yeah.
charitable organization, donated the money to the town of Woodbridge, the $110,000. Is that right, how it worked?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering, typically when you name something for somebody, at least in my fundraising world, it's because they made a gift to you. And I didn't understand, it seems like there's a couple of layers of this, that there was somebody's gift and then they were just directing it toward us, toward this project.
Right. Karen made, I guess with the board of directors of the One Big Dog Fund, made a decision to give it to the town of Woodbridge specifically for rebuilding or refurbishing the animal shelter in Woodbridge.
So my only concern was, since the person, I don't know any of these people, I'm sorry to say, but it just sounded like maybe there was, I was just concerned that where the money came from, are we stepping over someone to name it for someone else? It just seemed confusing to me.
I don't think so, because Karen, it was given to Karen, and she chose to donate it to.
I think it was Karen's choice.
Right.
To where she put the money.
Right, she could have probably kept it or sent it off to the ASPCA or something. She
Yeah,
chose to put
yeah,
it in the
okay.
charitable organization that funded Woodbridge, so, our shelter. So,
Thank you for answering that.
any other comments?
It seemed complicated.
Okay.
It is complicated. I think Karen does a wonderful job, and she certainly deserves this honor or some other kind of honor. But is there a way that we could include the name of the donor so that that family could get some recognition?
I guess in the story, but I talked to Karen today, and she, I don't know how we
You
would.
could put a plaque up on
With her
the
name.
shelter with her name, with the donor's
Sure.
name.
I think
That's a
that
good
would be
idea. Okay.
Thank you for,
That's a
you
good
know, it's not a
idea.
bad idea.
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay. So
Funds
that's
for
a
this
good,
project donated by the
right,
Alpert
funds
family.
from,
Right.
Yeah,
right,
I think that's the way to do it. You can name it whatever you want.
right, okay. Good.
Um,
We'll do that.
An aside here, something just popped into my mind, as it often does. Why not in the future, when we have these new town buildings, try to get may sound crazy, but try to get a corporate sponsor to name the building and get some kind of a donation out of
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the People's Savings Bank Senior Center or something like that.
yeah,
Oh, People's Bank isn't here anymore.
yeah. City Field,
Throw it out there, one of
City
those-
Bank named by,
One of those wild ideas.
right, okay.
I know at Amity they did create a naming policy to help
Yeah.
guide future decisions.
Right.
So maybe that's something that, like if it's a
Right.
corporate sponsorship, you have to.
We have Calistro
You need
Way.
guidelines.
We're not really sure how that all happened, but it's wonderful.
Oh, by the tennis
That's
courts.
his street. I mean, that's where he lived.
Not
It's
really.
like his private
I
driveway.
was at his house, he was on Ansonia Road. Yeah.
Off of Ansonia Road.
Calistro Ray is right here, at the ball field. Yep.
Yeah, by the
Right?
it was
By
his.
the pickleball
There's a
courts.
It's his
Calistro
advocacy
Not
for
in
the
all the
tennis
original
courts, I
buildings.
think.
243.
Is it the
What?
tennis
There's a
courts?
Calistro Way on 243.
Oh, no, that is named for, a relative. I'm trying to think.
Trumpet player?
Yeah,
Mm.
Frank?
Frank, yeah.
Anyway, okay, we digress. So we have had a discussion. Anybody else have any comments? I will call the motion. We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Almost there for, we'll move on. Thank you so much. Number 7 is receive correspondence from Town Plan and Zoning. You recall that we sent a request for an 824 for the EV charging station at Massaro Farm. And a copy of that is in your packet, actually, the application. And this is to serve to the Board of Selectmen to inform at its regular meeting on July 6th, the Woodbridge TP&Z received, discussed, and acted on your referral dated June 16th. And at that meeting, the commission acted to find the installation of the Connecticut EV charging stations, parens, S, maybe it's station or one, I think it's only one, right? Are they doing one?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, they gave him permission for more than one, just in case. They added an S. For the Massaro Farm located on town-owned property, was in conformance with the town plan and plan of conservation and development and the broader town initiative of making the town more sustainable. So it was approved. So we'll get that, we'll write over to them and they can go forward. So we thank them for that. And why don't we see if we can get, number 8 in, Tony?
They have to approve your
Oh,
signing.
we have to approve that we got
They
it?
have to approve
Action.
your signing the,
Oh, okay.
text.
So I will make a motion, I can't really, because I
I'll
have
make
to
a
sign it.
motion
Thank
to
you.
authorize the first selectman to sign the appropriate documents.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? It's in your packet.
These are the
That's why it's
documents
in.
to apply for the grant, correct?
Yep. Owner's authorization for Connecticut EV charging rebate program application
Yeah.
at 41 Ford Road and Smithsoro Farm.
Is there a reason that we never, I mean, Massaro Farms kind of came here and presented it to us, and we said, well, it has to go to TP&Z, so we didn't really, I mean, I didn't really talk to them or hear any discussion about why they wanted to do this or what it was. It just seems like it is consistent with our policy, but I'm, you know, I don't know, are we applying for a charging station that will be free like the other ones were, or is this going to be one where we will actually be compensated for the power that's used on, I mean, we're providing the power for this as a town owner.
We don't, yeah, but we don't pay for the power. In other words, the Sorrow Farm pays for their own electricity.
Okay, so it's not like in
Yeah.
this campus where we were.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we have no.
Well, those are the kinds of questions I would have liked to have Massaro Farms come in front of us and tell us a little bit more about the project, so that we could actually make an informed decision instead of just, I mean, I'm sure some people are informed about it. I have not been. I haven't seen any, the only paperwork I've seen was this little, nothing of a memo that says, it doesn't say anything.
To install an electrical vehicle charging stations at the above property in a manner consistent with the terms and conditions of the Connecticut Commercial Electrical Vehicles Charging Program. It's an application
That
for the
doesn't say,
rebate
it doesn't say anything about why they want it, why it's necessary. We haven't had any kind of a vetting or discussion on it. It simply just comes in front of us and we're gonna vote on it. I find that a little bit odd, because they're not here to answer any questions that might come from the
Well,
board.
we could certainly postpone the vote until next month and have them come back.
Well,
It's up to you.
I think it'd be better process if the board actually talked and asked, maybe there are other people maybe nobody else has any questions.
I don't have
other
any
than-
questions. To me, it's an EV charging station, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it, and you can decide not to, if that's okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the EV charging application. Is there a second? Joe, thank you. Any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. And with that, now we'll try, I forgot it almost, Administrative Officer, Director of Finance report. We can begin it anyway, Tony, and
Okay.
then we'll do it afterward.
In that, you're doing charging stations, and so Sheila approved.
Authorized signing.
Yeah.
Authorize the signature, so it's
Right.
two motions.
Okay.
I think did we vote on that one already? The first one?
No.
No, so, okay, so can we should go back and say approving the first, what was your motion to approve the first selectman?
To authorize the first selectman to sign the necessary document to get the rebate.
And somebody seconded that, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of me signing it?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you, that kind of fits with,
Oh,
okay.
I can't oppose one without opposing the other, I can tell you.
Got it.
Unless you just want the rebate.
Okey-doke,
It's gonna be at least
could
consistent.
have read that.
So how did you vote, Jim?
No, I voted.
On both, on both,
On
yep.
both, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, item 8 is the Administrative Officer, Director of Finance's report. Item A is monthly report.
Thank you. I have a preliminary monthly report through June, which is for the fiscal year end. And we have a budget surplus of estimated of $1.1 million, which gives us an $8.3 million fund balance, or just about 15.5% of our annual expenses. I think it's interesting to note that of the $1.1 million comes from, majority of it is from two sources. One is interest income, which is a little under $500,000 surplus due to the rapid rise in rates. And the other is from Amity, which is a $360,000 surplus. So if you add those two together, it's a majority of the surplus that we have this year. The aside from interest income on our revenues, our intergovernmental revenue is a surplus of about $160,000. That was from some State of Connecticut Municipal Revenue Sharing grant that we received. On our expenditures, I'll highlight those departments that are primarily over $10,000 in the surplus, so that you can, there's some others that are lower, but One is the registrar of voters, which is projected to have a surplus in part-time wages. I think the second, and I think part of that is the change in the election from May to.
That's right, it jumped into this calendar year,
So, they were
sorry, not calendar
planning
year,
for.
this fiscal year.
Right, they
Yep.
were planning for a May election and.
There you go.
so right. Police is a surplus of about $25,000. They have some vacant positions which they're desperately trying to fill, although they're having some difficulty with that. Waste management is a deficit of about $28,000. That's in your package tonight to approve. Some of that's from our tonnage increases that we had in our solid waste, and we've had some recycling costs increases as well. Human services is projected the surplus about $21,000 in part-time wages. And finally, Amity, we've discussed at prior meetings, the surplus in that account is $363,000. So those are the highlights of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Tony?
Tony, is there any money from the Woodbridge Board of Education that's coming back, or
So I haven't
Zero.
estimated any surplus in this projection. Last time I spoke with them, she said they'll probably be returning some funds, but at this point, I wasn't sure about how much, if it would be significant or not significant, so I
It
did
may
not include
adjust
it.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Item B is funding requests, and first one is we like line item transfers. This means we're not pulling anything out.
Right.
Line item transfer number 2223-36 of $28,000 to request, you just mentioned this.
Right.
The request to cover increased waste disposal costs. I'll make a motion approval of that. Is there a second? And this, anybody have any questions on this? You're taking money from
From a few accounts that
three
have
other
some
accounts.
surpluses.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good to cover this, so that's very good. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Is there a second? Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Okay. I was just gonna mention that.
Sure, sorry. You're allowed to comment, question too.
That the costs are gonna continue. Costs are continuing to increase in this area, as evidenced by our budget request. So
Well, yep.
it's not
Yeah,
good. It's
I know.
getting more difficult.
And I've been separating my glass and taking a drive up there and putting it, to be safe. Although it smashes relatively loudly in that container, but it's still not helping. I'm trying to do my part. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you. Next one is another, sorry guys, clear out your. Item transfer number 2223-37 in the amount of $110,000. This is, maybe I'll
can
make.
explain.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you can explain.
You wanna
huh? Okay.
explain
All right,
the
I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer number 2223-37 in the amount of $110,000, and you, take it away.
So.
Oh, wait, is there a second? Thanks, Joe.
So, in our budget, I assume a certain level of police private duty. And with police private duty, that's essentially when the police are requested to work on a job site throughout the town. Usually it's for tree removal, it could be for Frontier, it could be for the electric company. You've seen them doing traffic detail essentially. And when we charge, so it's typically on overtime. So when we charge, bill back or invoice the utilities, we invoice them for not only the overtime, but an admin fee, we call it, which covers all of our administrative costs, including the payroll taxes and retirement costs and everything. If there's a car, there's a fee for that. There's a whole bunch of fees that we calculate so that the town is not out of pocket on any of those charges. So this essentially transfers those revenues that we've already collected to cover the costs in our employee benefits area related to private duty. Because you know, I estimate a certain nominal amount, you know, and that's a conservative estimate in our budget process, but if it was a little higher this year than usual, so this simply transfers those costs, those revenues that we've collected in our admin fee to cover the expenses that we were charged from either the IRS or what have you. Does that make sense? So there's no impact on the town budget or the town fund balance or taxes or anything like that.
So Tony, the portion that goes in, that's here for retirement, that money goes into an account that's.
That's paid to the Municipal Employees Retirement Fund, which is run by the state of Connecticut. So it essentially passes through and goes into their retirement accounts.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? And it's unanimous, Jerry. Thank you. What else have we got here? I don't know why that's there. Is the next one 232402?
Correct. This is for the new year.
Okay, yep. We are now presented with line item transfer number 2324-02 in the amount of $6,300. I will make a motion that we approve this. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And I'll let Tony explain this one.
This was discussed at your last meeting of essentially taking our subdivision zoning and subdivision regulations and inland wetland watercourse regulations and installing them on our online code program so that they're searchable, they're right?
Easy for people to access and search and see.
Absolutely. I think there was a consensus of the board that we do this, so we had to try to find
But
money.
it was not in the budget, so that's.
Yeah,
So
it was in the strategic plan.
July 1 happened and the money.
Perfect.
Okay, so anybody have any other questions for Tony on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Is that all the funding
That's
requests?
it.
Okay, great. Item C is bid waiver and action is appropriate. First one is request to use the state contract for our annual paving material and application. We use the state contract. And I guess maybe you want to take this up and explain. We sent out bids, correct?
For the paving?
Yeah.
So essentially, what we've done the past several years is use the state of Connecticut contract. So the state, Connecticut, goes out to bid for paving.
That's right. They do the bids and
They-
then we take
because
the,
they're paving,
they
you know,
take the
the
lowest
whole
one.
state.
We take the lowest one from the
So they
state,
get good
right?
pricing.
Yep, the
And,
best, right?
Right. And so we then use that we're allowed to piggyback on that contract. And there's typically 2 or 3 vendors or bidders for each area of the state. So if you go on the state website, you can actually type in that number and it should come up. And Tilcon is the low bidder. It's typically done, per ton as you that's necessary. So what Warren will do is come up with a road list based on his schedule and criteria, and that road list will then get measured according to the pricing that's on the state contract, and then that's how you get the amount. So it's a measured amount. When you're in the field, sometimes costs vary if there's an abnormality or something. So that's just sort of an estimate on what the budget will be for this. There's also a cost adjustment in the contract for because asphalt is primarily made with oil. There's an escalator or a reduction in the price based on the oil market at the time. So that changes slightly. And the per ton charges includes application and the material. And we've done it the same process for many years. It seems more efficient, gets a better price.
So what the Board of Selectmen, as we have done in the past, is going to hopefully approve. I'll make a motion that we approve a bid waiver. This is for the first one, which is asphalt, pavement, and application vendor. for paving material and application from the state of Connecticut, and that would be Tilcon Connecticut Inc. And the roads that are going to be, for the amount of $420,446.00. And this year's work will be applicable to the following roads: Button Ball Lane, Weppawag Road, Walker Lane, Downs Road, and Johnson Road, a small segment of that road. So is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you so much. The second bid waiver is for the second part of this. No, this is for the police vehicle. Wait a minute.
No, this is the second one for milling.
Oh, okay, yep, milling and paving, sorry. This is along the same lines, a bid waiver request for pavement and milling services to use the state bid contract for Garrity asphalt reclaiming in the amount of $78,442.84. This is based on the estimated square yardage of roads to be paved. Apparently, they've been our vendor of milling in the past, and they do good work.
Correct.
So I'll make a motion that we accept a bid waiver for that, the amount, et cetera, that I just read. Is there a second? Thank you. Any comments or questions on this part? This bid waiver? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now we're at the police vehicle. We have a memo from Police Chief Capiello. He was involved in a serious 5-car motor vehicle accident on May 16th. He was not hurt, thank goodness, but his car was, that's all that matters, but his car was totaled. And maybe you want to talk a little bit further about this in terms of how we got to what we're going to be approving, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the car was totaled. It was not his fault. So the individual who caused the accident, their insurance is going to be paying for, well, our insurance is going to pay, and then they're going to go after his insurance. But so it's insurance funds that essentially will be replacing the vehicle. Because he doesn't have the vehicle, there is no state contract yet, and it was very difficult for him to find the vehicles that were, ones that would be similar to the ones that he would be driving. So he did some work to get 3 prices from 3 different vendors. They have them listed there. And the lowest price was Bob Thomas Ford in Hamden, $44,235. The insurance will cover the price of the vehicle and the installation of the equipment that's necessary. And I think Frank was just hesitant because he doesn't have a car, that for him to wait for a car could take months, if not many months. And so he wanted to go through this process to see if you can get a vehicle. So that's the request.
What kind of vehicle was it? Was it a hazmat? I kind of missed that.
What the vehicle that
What kind of vehicle was totaled?
Unfortunately, it was the hybrid.
Oh, the hybrid.
And he said, I tried, and he called every place he could think of to find a hybrid, and he could not find a hybrid police vehicle. So the next one they order will be a hybrid. Unfortunately, this was the one that was totaled.
Anybody have any comments on that? Just glad he's okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was right by the tunnel, actually. Someone coming down the parkway. And stop, I guess, and hit 4 or 5 cars
Ugh.
at the same time.
Scary.
One
Yeah.
Big chain reaction.
Chain reaction.
5 cars, was it? 5 cars?
A 5-car motor vehicle.
5-car.
That's a
Anyway.
pretty big
Ooh,
smash.
yep,
Yeah.
it's a mess, yep. Anyway, so I will move acceptance of the bid waiver request, as we just discussed, to replace the chief's vehicle and from Bob Thomas Ford of Hamden, Connecticut for $44,235. Is there a second? Any other comments or questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Do you have another other?
I do not.
No other,
I
okay.
have a question
So-
for Tony before we leave finance. I was looking through all the numbers here, and one number jumped out at me. I was wondering if you could clarify this for me.
Sure.
There are a number of departments that have car allowances.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, well, I mean, some of them are obvious, like the assessor has a car allowance, but then there are other ones like, the police have a $500 car allowance, rec has $1,275, human services $1,000, buildings $2,000, and finance $500. I don't know, that seemed like, how did that come about?
So different ones are for different reasons. The building one will probably go away because now they use a town vehicle. So that one will probably be eliminated in next year's budget. It probably won't get used that much. The finance is for trips, either for conferences or trips to the bank to deposit funds. What was one of the other ones you had? Police,
Rec?
rec. I'm not sure they use that one all that much. They used to use it when they were in different locations to travel. Occasionally they may go on a conference or something, but that one is probably, am I missing something?
No,
was-
it was when
It
they.
was when they were
over
at Beecher, and they used to
and
come
came
back
over
and
here
forth to
for-
town
yeah.
hall, right?
Police?
I'm not sure on police. That's all
Seems
I'm
like
not
they
sure.
drive the police cars.
Yeah,
wherever
it could
they
be,
go.
the only thing I could think of is if, because police drive police cars, but if there's a training situation for dispatch or for the records clerk has to use her car for something. That one I'm not sure of, I'll be honest.
And human services.
They,
Visits.
what's that?
They make the house visits.
Yeah, they make house
Oh,
visits.
Yeah,
with their-
All right.
they were doing meal deliveries too, I know, for a while, and they still may do some even though COVID's over. I know they do that, so.
A lot of towns, I find it's better to pay mileage than to have pool cars for people to use for a few reasons. One is, it's less costly, but also, if there's an incident, that person's insurance takes for primary over our insurance.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. Now we'll go back to item, wait for it,
Public comment?
5, yep, ahead.
Public comment, okay.
Yep, that's where we're going. Item 5, public comment. Is there anyone in the room this evening that would like to make public comment? Hop up. You have to identify yourself. You have 3 minutes and your name and address, please, and have a seat. We can't hear you in the mic.
Ah, that's exactly my point.
Okay.
Aha.
My name is Bettina Theo, and I came here because at home oftentimes I couldn't hear what you all were saying. So I found out it's even worse when you're here. Please use your microphones, and if you can, don't mumble. So that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes. that's-
Okay, I didn't know what, I don't set these up, but I understand now I've got to be right on top of it, so thank you for the input.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bettina. That it? Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Item 9 is the Assistant Administrative Officer's Report. That's a mouthful. And I'll call on Karen Crosby. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
As you know, I support both the Selectmen's Office and the Finance Department, so I'll list a few of the highlights since last month. We had fire extinguisher training for the Public Works employees on Monday. Tomorrow, we're having our quarterly safety committee report, and we'll be touring the library with our consultant from our insurance company to see if there's any safety concerns that if there are any, we'll address them with building maintenance. We're continuing with the know before regarding cybersecurity training for all our staff. The copiers that were bid out recently have all been installed, and the staff has been trained in all the new functions. We were able to reduce the prices of our water coolers and associated bottled water due to our vendor accepting the state of Connecticut contract prices. We're working on the adopted budget online. I'm working with that with Tony, and which will be submitted to the Government Financial Officers Association for the annual Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Also working with the Finance Department on the implementation of the new 457B provider for us. And it looks like the beginning of August, all the employee funds will be moved over into the new company. And I'm also working with the Finance Department on fiscal year-end tasks.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Comments for
I just had a
Karen?
question. And you're handling the online pieces of the town, is that correct? Is that?
The website?
Yeah, the website?
Yes.
I just wondered, where would I find, I was looking for the Vietnam Veterans event coming up on Monday. And I couldn't find it anywhere on the town website. So maybe it's just my search capabilities aren't very good, but it wasn't in a calendar anywhere, or, so I know it's been mentioned by the first selectman on numerous occasions, but I didn't see it when I went online, so I was just hoping that
I'm not sure that there's anything there.
No, I personally don't have anything to do.
We can take a look and make sure it's up or wherever it is and get it up
Okay.
ASAP if it isn't.
I just wondered if there's
Yeah.
sometimes it's easy to get, or maybe not easy, but we get meetings in, and things, but sometimes events don't come under a specific category, and I couldn't find that one, so I thought
Okay.
it just occurred to me, I thought I'd ask to see if it isn't put up, if it should be and could be, so that we let
Shoulda,
people
coulda,
know.
woulda, right, we'll get it up. Okay, if it isn't there. Any other
Thanks.
comments
Yeah,
for
I think
Karen?
David raised a good point. I look at the website all the time, and I can hardly ever find what I'm looking for, really. And I try cross-referencing different things, and things are lumped together with different dates and different names, and you look up something simple like an RFP, you cannot find it. You go through pages and pages and pages and pages. I know it's there, but I can't find it. We need some type of cataloging or indexing system so that we can, like Boolean search, so that you can put in a word and it'll, the information will pop up and you can find it. I mean, otherwise it's
There is
just.
a search bar at the top of the
I
page.
know, I've used it.
There's a search bar at the top of the page, apparently, for those in TV land that
I've
didn't
done
know.
that, yeah.
Okay.
And
I found it easier to use than the other one, and I'm not computer
well,
literate
yeah,
at
the old one
all.
was impossible, this one's just
So.
very difficult.
Yeah,
But it takes an inordinate amount of time to find what you should,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find, and it should be relatively easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's online, you should be just able to drag it out. So maybe we could look at that.
okay, thank you for your comment on that. Okay, moving on, item 10 is the consent agenda. And I believe this afternoon, we heard that there might be some minutes that have some adjustment. So I'm going to pull that one out, and I will also pull out the Yale University cross-country, former country club property, because we have some discussion on that. So I will make a motion with that we approve town clerk's report, the resignation of Leslie Lyons from Coopop, the recreation request, road race banner, and the request for the Woodbridge Like Me Library Lawn and Town Green on September 30th, 23, and also noting that there are quarterly updates from Coopop, Conservation, Human Services in your packet. Is there a second on that motion? Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so first we'll take up the minutes of June 14th for approval. Are there any additions, comments, corrections? Did you get some today, Jerry, I think?
Yes, I did. On the last page, I put Sheila's name in instead of,
Can you hear her, Bettina?
can you hear Bettina? All right.
You gotta pull that mic.
Oh, my mic Well, I don't know.
It's on now.
It is?
Yep, we just heard a
All
big
right, I
boom.
can speak quite loudly,
Yep.
as my children will attest to, and my grandchildren. Under, something that we voted on the last page of minutes, it says, showing the people that passed the vote, that have put forward the motion. I have Heller and then I have Sheila instead of McCredda. That's on the ordinance committee to revisit the income limits for the local program for elderly tax relief. And then under the executive session, I failed to write that invited into the session were Attorney Gerald Weiner and Finance Director Anthony Genovese. So I will make those changes.
Anyone have any other comments or questions or suggestions for the minutes? So I will motion that we approve them with the suggested changes. Is there a second? Thank you, David. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
It's now unanimous. Thank you very much.
Which David was that?
Dr. Lober.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and then moving on to the Yale Cross Country application. We received this, I think, yesterday from the Recreation Commission, who had approved the application on Monday night. And I think it's a wonderful idea, but there's a couple things that were brought to my attention. Number one, we're concerned about traffic because Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, I used to go to my son's cross-country races up at Bentley, and a lot of parents there were concerned about traffic. So Tony was going to reach out to the police chief this afternoon and find out if he was going to look into it further,
Yeah,
right?
still looking into it. I'm trying to get an estimate on how many, cars
Yeah.
will be
Right,
there.
and there
the
could be
chief will-
buses bringing the kids, and were they gonna take up
Based on how
that,
much the activity.
that
the chief
space
will
across the
decide.
street? It could be a problem, and there won't be enough people to park, and Woodfield Road is, this way, so we're a little concerned. Not that we don't approve this, but that
We
would
may
be
need
one
to hire an
thing
officer or two, prep duty.
to help out, and we'd have them pay for that. And then the second thing I was thinking about was, runners sometimes take water with them, and when they're finished, while they're running, they just drop it, and we're concerned if there are spectators as well, there could be the need for custodians. So I think we should probably ask that we have a couple custodians and some bags and stuff. We finally cleaned it up, so we don't want to have trash all over the place again.
Yeah, why don't we just ask them to police the
So
grounds after
that's
they
why I'm
finish?
gonna make the motion for those two things, all right? And if there's anybody have any other things, so we'll accept this approval. It's not until September, so we can get back to this group and just say, number one, we might require you have police.
What are they, just a question that would be.
Sure. Oh, yeah,
What,
into the
what are they
mic.
gonna do with I mean, are they gonna mow it or what? I mean, it's pretty overgrown. You can just run on the cart path. I mean, you can't just run a cross-country meet on the cart path. I've watched them do it over at the Yale Golf Course a number of times, and it's, they have so is there a plan for that? Is that something that's gonna
I
happen?
don't know, but I know we can find out, certainly. I know cross-country run in the woods, so they don't have a path, so they just do their best. I know, I don't know what Yale does, but, or
Well, I
Princeton
think-
or Harvard.
When I saw that the application came in, I was assuming it's because they're undertaking the renovation of the Yale Golf Course, which is where they typically run.
I did not know that, interesting.
Yeah,
Yep, okay.
yeah. So
I thought
they're-
maybe
they're-
they wanted to check us out.
They're doing a year or two worth of renovating on the whole property, so it's gonna be a construction site. And I'm assuming that's related to this. I don't know that, but that was my assumption. But typically, they run on a golf course that's, sort of still a golf course. So
Right.
you're not running through
This is
2-foot-high
not.
weeds. I mean, so I guess we do have a lot of expertise in that in this town, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I think Chris Dickerson will take care of it somehow or another.
Okay, all right, so we'll get that clarified.
Has anybody from Yale taken a look at the conditions of that course?
This
I
came
mean,
from rec.
I read this and I was concerned about that. My son used to run cross-country. They ran through the woods,
Right,
they would
yeah.
trip over the rocks and the roots.
Right.
But those cart paths are all broken up.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about people
So
falling
I
and
will
getting hurt.
express our concerns
Yeah.
to this group.
I mean, if they
We'll
mow
get
a
them a letter
swath
out
on
with
either
mowing
side,
issues,
yeah, I
the
mean,
path, concerns about that,
Right.
police issues, and also custodial services.
I mean, I saw the insurance, but beyond the insurance,
Right.
you know.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion? Or
I
you
just
have-
had one
yeah,
more question.
shoot.
Are they paying a fee that involves recreation, or it's just simply they're gonna be over there, they're not town residents, maybe some of them are, but usually, recreation has a
They're gonna pay
fee.
for the police, they're gonna pay for custodial services, and if we need to mow or clean it up or something like that, they have to pay
Okay.
for that as well.
So just the same way we rent out the green, it's the same
Right.
sort of thing, okay.
Correct.
It's not like a field rental.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so someone like to make a motion to approve these, with these three stipulations?
Joe did it.
We'll get that in the,
Joe just
what?
did. Joe just did.
Okay, is there a second?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye, thank you. Okay, now we move on to item 11, which is the town council's report. No executive session this evening.
No, this is just just for informational purposes only, and I put municipal election. As you know, the board, I think I reported last time there was a question as
You
to.
gotta talk into the mic, Jerry.
Whoa. I think I reported last time that I don't want any people to hear me. No. Last time I reported, it's a joke.
For the
Last
record.
time I reported.
We're gonna
Try
give it a
very
sign.
hard to be transparent.
Okay.
Have a laugh sign.
Somebody please smack him his needle.
Last time I reported that there was some confusion in the legislature. There was a bill that was going to extend the terms beyond Election Day. There was some question that people raised whether incumbents' term, because we changed from May to November election, could be extended beyond the day of the election, and there was some questions that perhaps all the elected officials in this November 7th election would need to be sworn in on Election Day. They proposed a bill in the legislature to clarify that little ambiguity in the new law that was passed. It passed unanimously in the House of Representatives, and it was going to be passed on the consent agenda in the state Senate, but they ran out of, somebody missed the ball. On the last evening, they go until 12 midnight. They have hundreds of bills that they're trying to take care of, and this bill didn't get put on the agenda, so it wasn't voted. So there still is that ambiguity. However, Bethany is in this is one of those towns, one of three towns that switched from May to November. I've been talking to their town council, who is Vin Marino from Orange, and he had first raised some concerns about whether we would in fact have to swear in all the elected officials on the eve or the next morning of the election. And he raised the question with the Secretary of State, and we got a couple of ambiguous responses. One response was, yes, you got to swear them in that evening. There's no authority to extend their terms to, as this Board of Selectmen already voted to I think, swearing in on December 31st, within a 70-day window that state statute does allow for the swearing in of elected officials. So he had a concern. After several discussions, I had discussions with people from the state Senate, with the general counsel of the Secretary of State's office, and Vin Marino, and we all came to a conclusion that yes, we do have the authority to extend the date beyond Election Day. It's just a little bit more comfortable for people rather than to have to take office the next day. So Bethany has their date tentatively scheduled for, I think, the second Tuesday or Monday in December. We voted to do the swearing in on December 31st. It appears, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to keep with that schedule. So that is the latest update on the election saga. It's been quite difficult getting through it, but I think we're finally at a point where everybody has consensus.
Can we add the time of midnight to the December 31st
Well,
swearing in?
I was saying
Look at that
we can do the next morning at 8 a.m. Nothing's going to be happening between midnight and 8 a.m.
Wow.
I would propose doing it the day after the election. I mean, our terms have already been extended 6 months.
That's the next board, so there will be a new Board of Selectmen meeting. New board will have to have a meeting that night. The new Board of Selectmen.
And that really creates some kind of, don't you think it conveys some confusion to the new people who have to take off, especially Board of Selectmen, First Selectmen, who are they? That might be to have to step into. I know there's a couple of cities in the US that do that, but not that many. They always give a little bit of a breathing room.
As a wise man once said, not my problem.
Yeah, okay.
Me too.
And we've already voted to do it December
I
31st.
understand that, but we still have the option of,
Yeah, we can always amend that vote.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for the update.
so,
Motion to adjourn?
Whoa,
What?
this is the shortest meeting
Oh, I
ever.
That's
thought
it?
there was a problem.
No.
I said, whoa, like, stop.
You're getting good at this.
Hold your horses. Whoa. Okay, motion to adjourn? Thank you, Sheila.
We got it, yeah,
Second?
yeah.
Somebody?
And then-
Thank you, David. Sheila and David Lober.
Okay,
Okay, non-debatable, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We couldn't have even got.